would like to welcome you to the July 18th, 2024 Design Review Committee meeting. This is a 9-person committee whose primary function is to perform design review for projects located in one of the city's 3 designated design review areas: downtown, the riverfront, and the new hotel overlay zoning districts. This is a mandatory review, voluntary compliance process, with one exception for hotels seeking to skip council review. Hotels taking advantage of this incentive must receive a positive recommendation from the committee. All committee members and staff are participating in person. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the committee page. You can also watch the meeting on the city's YouTube channel, either live or recorded. I will now take roll call. Jeremy Goldstein.
Here.
Catherine Ankaya is absent. Stephen Lee Johnson is absent. Thomas McLaughlin is absent. Michael McDonough.
Here.
Brian Moffitt.
Here.
Robin Rains.
Here.
And Ricardo Sejo is absent. And the first order of business is the approval of the minutes from the June 2024 meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Seconded.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? All right, the motion is passed. And
Madam Chair, I wonder if I could make a motion to move the next item, update to the rules and procedures, to after the design review agenda item.
okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah. So we will move the update to the rules of procedure as the last item. And the first new business is the formal design review of 252 Patton Avenue.
Good afternoon, committee members. Will Palmquist with Planning and Urban Design. I will be presenting this design review item for the temporary substation for Duke Energy at Patton Avenue. This is a conditional zoning amendment. This is a mandatory review, voluntary compliance design review located in the downtown CBD. Here you can see the project site. It's mainly at the corner of Patton and Klingman Avenues. It also has frontages on Hilliard Avenue, Knoxville Place, and Haywood Street. This is the location of a previously approved conditional zoning from 2019 for the construction of a new gas insulated substation, so a enclosed substation building on this site. You can see the zoning is CBD conditional zoning. There are 3 properties in the orange that were, sorry, just 2 properties in that orange color that were not part of that original rezoning that will now be incorporated into that rezoning. So the properties were acquired by Duke Energy, and the houses there were recently demolished. You can see in the aerials there is a pad for that future site existing on the building today. The site itself is 4.11 acres. It's in the CBD zoning. It's also outside of the traditional core in the tallest, it's a combination of the tallest height zone and intermediate height zones. Klingman Avenue is identified as a key pedestrian street in the CBD zoning district. So this is what was approved back in 2019. Essentially, I'll get into more detail, but what's being requested is an amendment to this approval to allow for a temporary phase. Essentially, there's other utility work and substation work, including the construction of a new replacement substation on Rankin Street behind Harrah's. That needs to happen before the permanent substation can be built. But before that happens, a temporary one needs to be built at this location. So that's what this request is for. The conditional zoning will go to Planning and Zoning Commission and then ultimately City Council for approval. So you can see here the final proposal is to have this enclosed substation building as was previously approved. This site plan shows the temporary interim phase for just kind of a regular old open air substation. Some details about that proposal are shown here, including the height estimations. The tallest transmission pole will be 100 feet tall, a couple lightning masts will be 70 feet.
800?
100, sorry, yeah, not 800. 100 feet tall, 2 lightning masts at 70 feet tall, and then other elements on the site around 40 feet tall. You can see it better on maybe the next slide, but as part of the original proposal, the site is proposed to be recombined and subdivided into 3 different lots. So the one lot would support the substation, and the other 2 lots will be broken out to allow for any future development on those sites. The primary entrance is proposed to be off of Klingman Avenue, and that can also be used for access for the other 2 sites as well. New sidewalks are proposed, but the existing sidewalks will remain in place during this interim phase. There's no off-street parking proposed since the site won't have any actual folks there except for service purposes. An 8-foot-high chain-link security fence is proposed to be installed around the perimeter of the site, and then another fence installed around the substation itself during this phase. The fence is chain-link, topped with razor wire, and the exterior property fence will have vertical slat inserts. So here's some provided renderings and an illustrative site plan. You can see more clearly here the 2 different lots, number 2 and 3, that'll be split out for future development. They'll be used for temporary laydown yards during this temporary phase of the substation. This is basically a view from Knoxville Place. You can see the top image is the existing condition, and the bottom shows what the substation infrastructure will look like once it's installed. This is kind of where those 2 houses were that have been demolished. This is a view of Klingman Avenue looking west. Another view from Klingman Avenue looking west a little further up near the intersection with Patton. And then a view looking back down through the site from number 4 from Haywood Street, looking most directly at the substation. And then here's view 5 from Klingman Avenue, where you can see the proposed, basically where the security fence jogs in to allow for a vehicle to pull into that area to unlock the fence and then gain access to the substation. You can see more clearly here the proposed layout of that exterior security fence as well. So this project was informally reviewed by the Design Review Committee back in April. There are a number of points raised and discussed. The first and foremost is a preference by the committee to have printed graphical fence inserts instead of just typical slats. Different ideas were proposed, like Duke logos or some kind of public art or neighborhood-related branding or the such. Acknowledgement of the Shamford corner at the corner of Patton and Klingman to provide some visual relief from that intersection. Kind of an agreement that it was fine to have the permanent landscape features withheld during this temporary phase and then be installed at the permanent final phase of the project with the gas-insulated substation construction. And then finally, just an encouragement for the project to kind of be part of the broader vision for the property as a major gateway into downtown as it relates to the Patton Avenue corridor revisioning project. The project was reviewed by the Technical Review Committee at its meeting in June 17th and was approved with conditions. Future reviews include the Downtown Commission review next Friday. They'll also potentially be reviewing the Rankin Street substation as well, so kind of a cumulative review of both of those projects by the Downtown Commission, and then future reviews of the conditional zoning amendment by Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. So I'll just say, to be honest, the guidelines in the downtown design guidelines aren't super readily applicable to substations and fences and so forth, so you'll allow a little bit of creative liberty in some of these, but the project does align with a recommendation to encourage more room at driveways to ensure clear visibility for pedestrians and vehicles. So kind of the way the fence and driveway is designed and some of the angles and so forth allow for safe ingress and egress of service vehicles. Staff identifies that the project is not supported by a few guidelines regarding first, and this is regarding loading facilities, so it's not exactly the same as a main vehicular entrance, but nonetheless just acknowledging that Klingman Avenue is a key pedestrian street and service entries and so forth are encouraged to be off of other secondary streets and alleys. Also acknowledgement that chain link is discouraged when it comes to recommended materials for walls and fences, but this is a temporary condition, so it will not be the permanent condition of the site. And then finally, that the project does not support the guideline that during construction, creative screening on the site is encouraged, since it is proposed as chain link with the vertical black metal slats or plastic slats or whatever they are. So overall, staff supports the proposed design of this Patton Avenue temporary substation project and recommends approval as the project is mostly in alignment with requirements and guidelines, with the recommendation that the project pursue more creative screening options to incorporate into the proposed site perimeter fence. I'm glad to answer any questions. We also have representatives from Duke Energy with us here today as well.
Will, what is temporary?
So,
Is that the, I mean, I guess it's not a design review issue, but if I was any council, P&Z, I'd like to know what temporary is. Is temporary 10 years? Is temporary 2 years? Is temporary 6 months?
that's a great question. That's some language I'll have to work into the project conditions as this moves along. My understanding is 2 years would be the time frame that I'd be operating under this condition.
Plus or minus.
What's that?
Plus or minus.
Yeah, there's definitely some wiggle room there. It's one of those things where if, I think we'll have to figure out the appropriate way to handle that, and if, the substation needs to operate longer in this condition, what's the mechanism for allowing that? Obviously, we're not going to make Duke Energy shut down a substation in downtown necessarily, but I know they've been, willing partners and working with the city along the way, so I'm sure they have every interest to stick to, their goals and their commitments they've made to the city so far.
Okay. Can you go back to the site plan real quick? So they have it right there, thank you. So they had the screen fence kind of pulled to the top of the hill. I guess that's lot, my eyes aren't great, lot 3. It was going to the back of the old houses on the south, yeah, that one right there. So that leaves a fair amount of grassy area for, how do I say that? People to congregate.
Sure.
There's a lot of slope there, though.
That has not stopped the kind of congregation I can see happening there. I'm just noting that they might want to pull that down. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then it shields
It does.
less as it gets lower. The
It
fence,
screens less.
It screens less.
That's why I'm asking the question, because I can actually see that happening anyway, like
Yeah.
Duke wanting that to not be a congregate area.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm using the right terms, but.
No, I think that's a good way of putting it. We can defer to them to see if they have some ideas about that idea.
And it's a safety issue too, to not encourage people to congregate near
Right.
a potentially dangerous situation.
Well, because, so to Michael's point, if it pulls down, it's not screening much of anything. Of course, it's just a lay-down area. I just wanted to ask, because it made a lot of sense earlier when but the houses are gone.
Right.
We'll talk to the applicant about that. I just wanted to note that.
well, that's a current condition, so we can hear comments about whether it's been an issue
I
so
don't-
far, right?
Is the fence there now?
No, I mean, that grassy bank is
Oh,
there
sure.
already.
Yes, sir.
I think there is a fence around the pad that's been created. You can kind of see it in the existing photo here,
Yeah.
but it doesn't extend out like the proposed fence would.
Yeah, it just wraps
Along.
around the pad right
Correct,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks, Will. I think we can hear from the applicant
Sure.
now.
You're welcome to flip through the slides as you want, the two left and right arrow buttons, or whatever you need to do.
I'm Justin Brown with Duke Energy. I don't have too much extra to share. We were just discussing the fence, especially regarding the viewpoint. If you thought it was a good idea, we could potentially do like a double fence to leave the one up top to help block the view, and then put an additional one at the bottom to keep people out of that section. I think that's something we could incorporate.
I think you should have that option, so without having to go back through approval.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I can see that being an issue for you from a security and risk assessment. I'm sorry, I'm putting on too many hats here. I'm supposed to have design review on, but it would impact like what we see there. And I think you're going to probably end up wanting to do that. So I don't know if we need to make a note of that we would have, could approve a second fence on the, what is that, along Knoxville Place and Hilliard. I could see them taking it down all the way to Hilliard, honestly, while we want to keep the fence as shown to screen the laydown area.
Has there been an issue with trespassing?
Yes, but we don't have the perimeter fence up right now. Typically, we've discovered people kind of in this area because it also slopes off quite a bit from Patton and West Haywood. So people would kind of camp out along this backside.
Yeah.
So yes, it's
Once you
definitely
get the privacy fence, though, people wouldn't be able to see them from Klingman, and they'll go right into that corner.
it's very possible. Yeah.
And plus, if you fence it in so they can't do that anymore, then
They'll
it's like
find
water.
somewhere else.
It's like
Yeah.
water. It's going to find.
Yeah.
you know.
No. Good point. The other thing I wanted to mention is we're still definitely open to a graphic screening. We've talked to our corporate communication folks, but we haven't developed a sample yet, so we can't share that right now. But we can definitely take that to a staff level review. We're still working with Rachel Taylor from the Economic Development Department, so we don't have to share that to share today, but we could certainly send it for some type of review once we have it put together.
I would support staff level review for the graphics, and I would just note that I don't think the DRC is indicating that you have to do that for the entirety of the fence line, including the inset or places like that on the, I don't know what anybody else thinks, but.
Well, I would argue that if we're gonna be looking at a fence for 3 years, it's gonna be boring to look at the same graphics for 3 straight years or whatever. So in some ways, something less fussy and like you said, maybe pick that chamfered corner on Klingman Patton to at least describe the project, and then kind of like let it be kind of quiet for the rest of the area. That would be my opinion.
The other thing that comes to mind, and staff could speak to this, but I thought we had a problem with putting graphics on construction fences. I thought suddenly it became a sign and they wouldn't allow it.
I remember that too.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just don't want to create a problem for you, trying to, please somebody, one hand and the left hand saying, no, no, no.
Why did you point at me?
No, I was, anyway, just, right? Don't you guys recall?
Yeah, I think it was the project right down the street here that we were looking at the contractor's corporate logo and
Yeah.
the realtor's corporate logo, and everybody had their marketing all around the edges for a year and a half. And
Okay.
Yeah.
I can look into that more. I don't know.
Yeah,
off the
check
top of
that
my
out,
head,
'cause that
yeah,
could
might
be an
depend
issue.
If it's marketing or advertising versus just like decorative.
And to your earlier point, temporary is going to be towards the end of 2027, so it would be up until the permanent GIS station is complete.
I think you should definitely describe the project somewhere, just as a public service.
Just in a limited fashion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments? I think before we take a vote, we're going to open up for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have anyone for public comment? All right. We'll close for public comment at 12:50. And I don't think there was anything online.
I move to recommend approval of the Patton Avenue temporary substation project as presented based on the site plans, elevations, and materials submitted. The discussions heard during this review find that the project meets the intent of the downtown design guidelines, subject to the following conditions. One, that the applicant seeks staff approval for the location, extent, and configuration of proposed graphic portions of the temporary fence screening, and that the applicant pursue a secondary privacy fence along Knoxville Place and Hilliard Avenue if the project requirements, if the project so requires. Okay, there we go.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. No, the motion is approved. We'll move on to the next. item. And this is the update to the rules of procedure.
Alrighty, hello again. So this is an administrative review of the Design Review Committee's rules of procedure. We talked about this last month. The existing rules require changes to the rules of procedure be introduced at one meeting and voted on at the next. We are proposing eliminating that statute in this for simplicity going forward. I'll just go over some of the changes again that are being made here. Some is just cleanup, like the correct new name for the Asheville Buncombe Riverfront Commission. The main change is the term information that was part of the recently passed UDO amendment that has the Downtown Commission and Riverfront Commission terms running concurrently with the Design Review Committee terms, which was not explicitly the case before. So
Hey, Will, I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
yeah,
Are we hearing this again because you're required to do it for 2 meetings?
correct.
Is there anything different that you've changed since our last meeting based on our comments, or no?
No. Nope, same as before.
Sorry. If you want to keep going through it.
Yeah, I
Yep.
don't think we need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I'm still questioning is, I suggested, and I thought other members concurred, that we change the shall to may in terms of the attendance. Because the way it's written, you will be replaced if you don't meet the minimum attendance.
Stephen Lee's gone.
Let me find that section.
Well, it's just an issue of, it's not always easy to get volunteers to serve. And you may not want to boot someone. Or you may. Faithful attendance, yeah.
And I did double check with folks that I think may be replaced is probably a more accurate way of describing that. So if you want to make that change today, I think we could approve these changes with that change as well. I think that's,
I would,
Do
li-
another meeting?
I don't think so.
I would
Say
like,
no.
I would like to make a motion that we change whatever article this is, C, from duties are required of the members of the committee shall be considered to may be considered a prerequisite.
I think
it was
Jeremy's
the
explicitly
last
referring to
Oh,
the
that
second
one,
shall,
on the
that
last,
replacement.
shall be considered, but I think you have to change faithful attendance shall be considered.
Well, that's fine,
Prerequisite.
but they put a number on it on the second one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, faithful attendance
fails to
shall be
attend.
considered, but
At least, okay, well, faithful, so we can, so there's faithful gives you wiggle room.
right.
75% doesn't give you wiggle room.
Correct.
Okay, I'm with you now. I was thinking we had to do both, but you want to change just the last shall to may.
Yep. Well, it gives you some control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I second that motion, if that's your motion.
Well, you just made the motion, so I'll second it.
Oh, there you go, okay.
so So adoption of this new rules of procedure with that one amendment.
Just change the shall to may, that one that you
Okay.
have highlighted.
I move that we adopt the proposed changes of the rules of procedure with the additional change of that shall to may in the last sentence of that Article C.
Great.
There we go.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Wait, are we
Oh, sorry.
approving the whole thing?
I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I wanted to make a comment about recusal. If you can scroll down to that.
Yeah, sorry.
And by the way, if other members want to hear the summary again, I didn't mean to cut it off. I just felt like I heard it and wanted to hear the changes, but
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to sitting and listening again.
It's not
If you guys
terribly
want to.
exciting, so.
Yeah. Okay, in red, as determined in consultation with the city attorney. Last meeting, I recused myself. I didn't talk to the city attorney. And I think you recused yourself too, so I think if we have questions, we should be encouraged to clarify them with the city attorney.
Mhm.
But I don't think it should imply that every time we recuse ourselves, it has to be in consultation with the city attorney.
Yeah, that's a good point. Some of this is borrowed from the Planning and Zoning Commission
Which has an
language.
attorney present.
And
at
they have
every
Janice
meeting.
there at most meetings, so it's easy to determine with her in real time, whereas we don't have that, so,
We did the same thing at HRC.
yeah.
Yeah, my recollection is that we're obligated to vote, and so we can't just decide to recuse if we're uncomfortable. It needs to be a proper recusal, so that was sort of why they had that there. So for political reasons, someone may say, hey, I don't want to be a part of this, but
That makes sense.
I don't really know how to solve that, like, because there's no attorney. Maybe in advance, if you
Yeah.
know the agenda's coming, we talk to, we reach out, but.
So is this implying that we have to check in first with the city attorney before we recuse ourselves?
Well, there may not be time. I mean,
Mhm.
in a perfect world, you would know ahead of time because you know the project coming up. But in the world we actually live in, you're sitting here, you know the project, but then the project team walks in and one of them's your cousin, and you go, oh shoot, right? And the city attorney's not here. So now what? And I think that's kind of where you're going, Michael, is that there may arise an occasion where the
Or you
project.
don't look at the agenda until the night before or something, and you're like, oh.
Shh, don't do that. I'm saying we are reviewing, we're faithfully executing our duties, but in the faithful execution of our duties, we overlooked a connection that we have to disclose that would require our
Right.
recusal.
I mean, maybe we could add, as determined in consultation with the city attorney as necessary or as appropriate, as needed.
As needed.
As needed.
Okay.
I mean, we're still voting, so if someone wants to avoid political fallout by abstaining, then when we vote, we can say, wait a minute, why are you abstaining? Like, no, you need to vote, right? Isn't that why
Yes.
we're voting?
I just, yeah, I mean, I know it came up a lot when I was on P and Z, where you had to vote unless you had a true conflict. So I would,
Right.
as practice, I'd be calling in advance of the meeting, saying, okay, so this is what I own property over here, but I have no financial interest over here. I would
Yeah.
just,
So we could suss that out at the meeting when someone says, hey, this is why I'm recusing myself, and
right.
if that doesn't
Yeah.
have legs,
So,
we say, no.
so Kate says, I'm working for the client.
Well, yeah, she said recuse, and I said why, because I wanted to know why.
Right.
And she said, well, I'm on the team. I'm like, okay.
Right.
But you can't just recuse
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, those are good points.
Okay, so I would move then for item F, voting, that the phrase "due to a conflict of interest as determined in consultation with the city attorney" be revised to "as determined in consultation with the city attorney if required or as needed." As needed. So moved.
Yep.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 For the whole thing.
For the whole
This is
thing.
the whole
Well,
thing.
You got more?
No, no.
Okay.
That was a good one, though.
That was
That's fine.
Good catch.
Do we
All
vote?
right.
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed?
This
The
is where
motion is
gavel
approved.
useful. Just
Yeah.
You got stopped.
Great, well, I appreciate your work on formulating that, and we'll get that uploaded and posted on the website for transparency, and yeah.
Brian, that's why I suggested we hear them first and do this.
I
after.
appreciate that.
Yeah, that was better.
That makes sense.
Great. All right, I think
Thank you,
that's
Will.
everything on our formal agenda.
I just want to follow up, the dumpster is still on, for the recently completed hotel, I think it's Carter? 2 blocks up from you.
DMC Suites?
Yeah, there's still a dumpster right in the middle of the sidewalk.
Okay.
And there's a garage for it, and there's already one in there, and I guess they didn't have room, so. And, I mean, that's in my route, that area. And there's one, sorry to be nitpicky, but there's another dumpster sitting on Haywood Road at the brick apartment building, across from the Indigo, if you're coming,
Haywood Street.
excuse,
Haywood Street.
Haywood Street, yes. So you come off the interstate, you go back over the interstate, and you're looking at the new hotel, the brick apartment building. That dumpster is not enclosed, and it's just an eyesore, and I don't know what we can do about it, but it just seems like part of our purview is to kind of screen stuff like that, and it's just front and center, first thing you see.
Sure, I can look into that. Yeah, appreciate that.
I mean, are there existing standards? I mean, that's been there forever.
Dumpsters need to be screened in some form or fashion, yeah, so if it's just sitting
That-
there, that.
That's been the standard for 20-some years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And it bugs me every time I see it.
Well, I'm glad to look into that for you. Absolutely appreciate that.
And the meeting is adjourned at 1:02.
Okay.